As in, did you
Okay.
get everything off your chest? Did you say what you wanted to say?
Okay. Heroics. Fix them. I'm the horrible right now. Has a coast to get on it. No, I'm good. That's it.
Brilliant. Then we move on to the next one. Do you think that it was a bad idea that Blizzard introduced flying mounts in TBC? Sure, we get from point A to B faster, but does it ruin the world PvP and the real feeling of exploring new lands? Also by Knap.
Good old Knap. Um, I think it was a horrible idea. Yes, absolutely.
Really?
Just like LFR, they should not have introduced it to the game at all. They should have had an alternative. Um, the thing is, back then, back in TBC, I was only like 14 or 15, and I was all like, "Yeah, you can fly. This is awesome." So I didn't really have much of an opinion back then. I was more of a on the noob kind of scale. Um, but yeah, I think looking back, it's just the case. What it boils down to is you're flying up to kind of save time to be able to find the place you want to go and then land and then do all the things you want to do and then take off again and go.
Hmm.
And when when your game has a that fog thing, the draw distance, when it has the like on low computers, like I used to play on a really crappy laptop. When I was flying, like I flew like 5 meters in the air, I couldn't see anything. Like I could see literally nothing. I had no idea where I was flying. I was looking at my map. Like I turned to my map. I'm like, okay, I'm flying above gray zone. Landing. Oh, I'm getting killed by things now. So it totally destroys immersion, like in every way. Flight paths work because it's more of an experience where you kind of like look, you have a chance to look around and turn your camera and like enjoy the views because you don't see it very often because you're flying and then you land, and in order to fly again it would take you like 5 minutes of flying, so you just don't do it again. Whereas when you have a flight mount, it completely just ruins the entire scope, the entire the majesticness of being in flight.
The
It
majesticness. Hmm.
the majesticness, yes, totally. The flashy opness this. That's right. I'm
This,
making up words.
you've heard it here first, folks.
Yeah, and it just completely ruins that majesty of it.
Oh,
In my opinion.
the first time that I completely disagree with you because well, the 2 points that Knap is putting forward is that it destroyed world PvP and that it kills the real feeling of exploring new lands. Now, the world PvP thing was ruined way before flying was introduced into the game. It was ruined the moment that they introduced battlegrounds. Let's get that straight. There was world PvP back in Classic. We had the old South Shore, Tauren Mill battles. Those were brilliant, and I wish we could relive those days. But those days were gone when people realized, you know what, I can get my kills way easier in the battlegrounds. Fly mounts had nothing to do with that.
No.
Then the immersion thing, the thing that I remember from Flight Pass was that those were my toilet breaks. I spent about 15 minutes flying from, where was it, somewhere to Dire Mall, and I come there, and 15 minutes later I arrived. I didn't get the feeling like, oh wow, look at this world. It's brilliant because I'm now on a flight path mount. That's not what happened for me. What I do agree with is when you're leveling up and you get a fly mount, that should never happen because what happens is you fly in, drop in from above and get your kill and fly out again. That kind of ruins it. But they've had systems in place like you need to get to max level before you're allowed to fly. And I think those systems work. Like you explore the land as you level up, and once you reach max level, you get that fly mount. I think that works, and that way you get both best of both worlds.
Yeah. Well, let me revise my statement just a tiny bit. The fact that they're making it so that it's really difficult to be able to get a flying mount in Warlords Journal, like
Hmm.
it's I think that's probably the absolute best way they can go about it. I don't even know if they should delay it to 6.1. It seems kind of odd, but if they make it so that you have to go through some kind of an absurdly difficult long quest chain in order to be able to fly, that means people who are flying suddenly seem surreal. Like these people who are flying, it's just like back in the day when you'd see someone with gear and you'd be like, "Oh man, he must be rating." This
Yeah.
person who's flying has earned it. Good on him. Damn, I wish I was that guy. That that works totally. I still feel like it does kind of ruin world immersion. And doing it on Flight Pass, I find it's more like I did the same thing. Like I'd be on a flight path. I'd half the time I'd be like off, doing something else, Tetris.
Exactly,
But
Tetris.
it's more the fact that you're taking it in subconsciously. All the environments down below, like you're just looking down at it. It's very very cool. It's very peaceful, very calming. Whereas when you're flying on your own, like you're whizzing the camera everywhere and you're going, oh man, I'm flying. I'm gonna go down, get the herb, get back up, and keep doing stuff. It's just chaos and nonsense. Um, so yeah, that's just how I feel. I don't know. I totally agree that nothing to do with world PvP. Like I barely speak of PvP because I don't know jack about it. But like they said at BlizzCon, world PvP was dead way before
Yeah.
fly mounts. There's no way to get that back. Like you can't emulate that anymore. That was a byproduct of something that wasn't functioning. In the fact that there weren't battlegrounds.
Exactly.
That's all I'll say.
Yeah, so when that video went around, like it destroyed world PvP, I mean, I can understand that it's horrible that you're ganked from up above and that you can't really do anything about it because some max level is flying behind you. But ganking has always been a thing on PvP servers, and if you don't like to be ganked, then don't roll on a PvP server. It's just part of it.
I'm actually on a PvP server and I don't like getting ganked, but I'm only there because that's where all the oceanic players are. So I make it. Like on the Timeless Isle, as soon as you see someone attack you with like two of his buddies, I just stop. I'm like, I'm not running away from this. I've tried it too many times. They just track you down. They just hunt you down. Like I'm like heroic leaping. I'm putting a banner down and intervening charges to it. They find me. They always find me. They just
Of course,
destroy me.
they see the Mohawk man. They see it and they know you're there.
Yeah, I wonder if like people like, knew who I was, and it's like, yes, we finally get to kill this douchebag. I'm like, ah, just let me kill these gulp frogs.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. World PvP has just transformed into a ganking, and those who were ganked are going to do it when they reach max level. It's as simple as that. And about the changes that they're going to make to flying with the questing, I'm not sure if they're going to make it extremely hard. I personally think they're going to make it like the serpent cloud thingies, where you do a couple of daily quests for like a week or two, and after that you're allowed to fly around. I think it's going to be similar to that.
I don't think we'll be using dailies. They got a stigma now. We can't even speak of dailies without
Oh,
foreign.
right. Yeah.
No. Yeah, it'd probably be something like that. I think it would be like the legendary quest chain oh my god, the legendary quest chain. Don't get me started on that. Going to PvP and
You didn't like that?
oh my god, no.
I loved it, man. Getting people enticed into doing something else besides just PvE.
I like the concept of of the legendary quest chain. I like the idea of it. I think the execution was awful. I think they went the whole wrong way about it. I mean, they were like, okay, we want you to be like actively doing stuff to get your legendary cloak, but then half of the chain was either getting valor points, which you do passively unless you're not playing, or you're going through raids collecting things to drop off bosses, which you're doing anyway to get gear. And then the other half is just a mishmash of different things. It's like you either do some battlegrounds, and oh my god, those battlegrounds took me forever. We kept losing, and I would leave early, and like I'd have the stupid 30-minute debuff. I'm like, I'd just log off immediately because I'm sick of this game. The other ones, I think, is there a proving ground one for the legendary question?
No, Proving Grounds are after the legendary. There is
Yeah,
the one where you have to fight Rephion in the Temple of the White Tiger.
Right, yeah, I knew there's something in the temple. I'm currently on the section where you have to get the secrets from the raids, and oh god.
Now that part I do agree with, that random drop chance and that constantly farming and trying to prolong the quest line, that part sucked. But getting people into battlegrounds, getting to do something else besides PvE, especially with the gear changes that they also implemented, I didn't really have a problem with it. But then again, it only took me like 5 or 10 battlegrounds before I got it. So maybe I'm just very lucky in that.
Well, I think there are other ways to get people into BGs. I don't think the legendary quest chain was one of them because isn't it a PvE cloak? Why
Yeah.
are we doing PvP to get a PvE cloak? Like, it just logistically, it doesn't make sense. Like, it's a good idea to get people into battlegrounds, but why shoehorn it into this chain? And some of the other quests are like, oh, we're talking about legendary quests now, whatever. You got to go the Isle of Thunder, and you got to farm things to get rep with Wrathion, and that's like the best way to do it. So essentially, some of the quest chain is just you going to the island to kill a bunch of trash. So it's between doing raids to get the secrets and that kind of thing, to get Velocap, to get the BGs. Do you see where I'm going with this? Where it doesn't really make any sense. It's a good idea on paper. I like the idea of challenges, of challenging content to get a really cool cloak for your character. But the way they went about it was very odd.
Yeah.
How did we get here from flying?
I think we went to the flying quest line that it should be legendary.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, I agree with the battleground might not have been the best choice, and indeed, if they're going to do another one, which they did kind of talk about but nothing confirmed, I hope they do more challenging scenarios, because I really like that with Wrathion going to the Forge and the challenging fight with the Shah, because I actually died on that fight, which I was like, what the fuck, I just died. What is this? That was fun.
Yeah, like the Warlock quest chain where you got that really difficult boss at the end and you get the green fire to prove that, you did it. Like, green fire is so cool because of that. Because it was so difficult to get to. Yeah, so it's the same thing with like flying mounts and legendary quest chain. It should just be something difficult, not something obscure and weird, but something and lengthy, but something hard but fun and not so different that you're like, why am I doing this?
Yeah, but even that green fire questline, even that one got a couple of requests to nerf it. And I'm never going to say that I'm the best player in the world, but I leveled up a warlock to 90 from nothing. I looked up a guide and I was able to do it. So it really didn't require a nerf in order to get the green fire quest. It was challenging, definitely challenging, but that's what makes it fun. And I despise that mindset of I can't do anything right now, right away. Nerf it for me so I can. I don't like that mindset, and I don't like Blizzard giving into it.
Yeah, that's the worst part. I mean, people can complain all they want. I mean, the WoW forums are just toxic with it. But when the community managers address these incredibly hostile topics with something like, we'll look into it or whatever, I feel like I'm dying inside a bit. It's just horrible. Like, there are so many legitimate topics, like feedback topics that they could be responding to, that they could be addressing. But instead, they go for these trolls. And I don't know. I mean, on my YouTube videos, I never respond to trolls. Like, I respond to the people who legitimately have something to say. If they want to be negative, then that's fine. But if they want to be critical, then totally, I'm on board. Like, I'll talk to you. Yeah.
Well, feedback is feedback, no matter how someone packages it. Like, you can be very nice and respectful about it, or you can be a dick about it. In the end, it's still feedback that you can work with. And chapeau to Blizzard for not giving in to the request of nerfing the Brawlers Guild. That's one of the things that I'm really happy about. But sometimes they just give in, nerf it so that everybody can do it. While all it takes is maybe a little bit of practice, a little bit of patience, maybe.
Yeah, once again, like, this is the only game that has that kind of, feedback and result. Whereas other games, they make a static product and then they deliver it and then that's it. Whereas MMOs is like an ongoing process. I mean, I have never seen a game where you can talk to the developers so much. There's so much dialogue there. It's almost overwhelming, and it gets to the point where you worry that they're taking too much of the feedback that isn't necessarily like the majority opinion. Like, it's usually just the vocal minority.
The loudest one, yeah.
Yeah. And they scream because they don't like something. but that doesn't necessarily reflect the player base.
Oh,
That
that's
reflects
true.
them.
That's
uh,
definitely true. But did you know, by the way, I think that it was Ghostcrawler who actually opened up those channels to talk to the developers and get that feedback in. I think
yeah.
he was one of the first who started to interact with the player base and explain what was going on and actually reply to those things.
Yeah, I can't remember back that far actually, but I think he did mention in one of his tweets that he was like that. Because yeah, I don't remember it being like this back in BC or Wrath. I mean, maybe late Wrath, but that's kind of when it started, when
Yeah.
they started talking to us a lot more. Um, God, I really hate going to Ghostcrawler's, well, not Ghostcrawler's Twitter anymore, but when it was there, and seeing all these people, these incredibly hostile people, just like giving the ridiculously bad feedback that I was like so against that. I'm like, if they listen to that feedback, it's gonna hurt the game so much.
Mm.
Um, but luckily they don't really. I don't think they take it that seriously. So it's only in the odd occasion where something happens, like the daily quests, where you kind of wish it didn't go that far, but it did.
Yeah, and I have to give respect to Ghostcrawler for in that regard, that he became the face of everything that's wrong with WoW, and that he became the target for everybody to go against because you ruined the game and you decided this and you decided that, and to just take that with an attitude like it's okay for people to be so hostile because it means they care about the game. No
Yeah.
matter what you think of Ghostcrawler and his changes made and what he did to the game, you gotta have a kind of little bit of respect for that.
Yeah, I totally respect the guy. I mean, he's such a jolly dude. I mean, you could see him on the BlizzCon panel. He's like joking the entire time. Like every time someone mentions three, he's like, Half-Life 3 confirmed. It's
Yeah.
He's hilarious, and like that's exactly what the community needed. They needed someone in the business who isn't incredibly stubborn and business minded to just kind of open up and just relate to people. Yeah, it does kind of suck that he's gone. I mean, I saw some of the posts like MMA champion, like usual. This one guy that just said, "Oh man, I'm so glad that he's gone." Like a few of my friends heard that he was gone, and suddenly they want to resubscribe. And I don't know, like I know that Ghost Scroller doesn't take that kind of thing seriously, but when I read it, like I felt bad for him. Like I'm
Yeah.
like, I hate that. I hate when people do that kind of shit. When like someone is working that hard, and then people just um, turn it into something just completely meaningless like that. Um, but I guess I'm just empathizing with him there. I mean, I don't know where he's going now. He's probably off to make some
To better
awesome,
things, play
yeah,
with the dolphins and such. But yeah, people
legends.
are idiots like that. But you really think WoW is going to make drastic changes now that Ghostcrawler is gone? Are you really that stupid?
Mm.
I hope not. I
You're
really,
asking
I
me.
have a bit more hope for the player base than that.
Uh,
But
no.
anyways, I think the next question we've really covered. The next question was about the difficulty and that every expansion is difficulty is getting lower. But we've talked about the difficulty in great extent. So I think we can move on to the last question about the game, which is: do you think that WoW should improve in gameplay, quests, or even graphics? I'd like to hear your opinion. And if you do think WoW should improve, how do you think Blizzard can change WoW for the better?
Oh gosh, that's a deep question. It's because I ran out of notes for these topics like in LFR. Like I wrote so much that I kind of burnt myself out, and I didn't have enough time to write anymore. So kind
Everything
of
about Elevar, I hate it, I hate it, I hate it.
exactly. It was me writing. I hate it in like 7 different tongues. Uh, what should improve? Well, we went into quests and how they could do with more options in terms of difficulty.
Mhm.
Gameplay, they're constantly improving the gameplay. I mean, they're improving gameplay faster than I could come up with ideas. Like that's how fast they're going.
Aye.
Uh, graphics, God, people care about that. Oh God. Maybe they could move to a different engine eventually. They could keep the same game, the same subscribers, the same art assets, but move it to a different engine if they want. If it gets to the point where the engine is so archaic, like 5 years from now, 10 years from now, then sure, I could see them doing that.
Mhm.
Um, but it really depends if people care about that enough. I mean, with the new character models and all the changes, the updates they made in Pandaria, goddamn Jade Forest. Have you seen this shit? The fucking trees alone blow my mind. You look up on like lowest settings, and it's like looking at Crisis. It's like looking at the latest big game. It's ridiculous. Um, and it's so stylized as well. Like that's the major charm of it. It's all stylized. Why would you want to change that to make it more realistic? Just to, just keep it like it is.
Oh yeah,
So
it's a WoW style, definitely.
yeah, I mean, I had the whole worry that the Warcraft movie would kind of be hurt by the fact that I don't know if they're going to keep that style. But I don't know if we'll have enough time to talk about the movie. Well, yeah, we've got more questions, but
I might make some time for it, but yeah, go on.
um, well, I mean, the WoW style, I call it the WoW style, the Blizzard style of kind of inflating everything, making everything more
Shoulder pads, huge. Weapons,
yeah,
huge. Yeah.
the muscles and everything, and all the characters. Like you look at the actual cinematic, and the orc looks bizarre because his
Yeah.
muscles. So that kind of stuff, it just works with the cartoony feel. It's not even cartoony. It's like just the Blizzard style, and if they were eventually going to move it up to a different engine, you'd have to factor in: is it worth it? Would they keep going with this game for the next 10 years? If I was working at Blizzard, I could probably tell you. But even then, I probably couldn't even play the higher ups that only know that. Um, but I don't even think it's necessary. I mean, they could just make a different game series. I think by that point, people will want something different from Warcraft. People who play Warcraft will want the same thing, and they could probably keep going with WoW, like maybe tone down the whole yearly expansion thing, but
Mm.
they would be working on Project Titan. They'd be going with the next big thing, and I don't really think it's worth improving the graphics. Okay, so you go ahead and say your major improvement, and I could probably think of the major one thing that I need improved that isn't dungeons.
That isn't dungeons, alright. That isn't removing LFR, okay. Well, I'm kind of with you on the graphics part. I mean, if you look at the pandas and the way that they look, it's freaking mind-blowingly good, especially compared to the other characters. And for me, graphics are a nice addition to the game. It's a nice improvement, but it shouldn't be the core of the game. And I'm a little bit worried about announcing it as a major feature for Warlords of Draenor, while I'm kind of like, okay, this is just something you should do regularly as a side bonus. It shouldn't be a major feature for the expansion. It's nice that you do it, but I'm going to look at it for a minute and I'm going to be done with it. While I know that others are really into graphics and stuff like that, for me it's not a game breaker or maker.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
the,
Like,
yeah, sorry.
go ahead. I was just gonna say, like, I care about the difference between 2D and 3D. That's a big deal. But graphics improvements, I would be fine if everything was like PlayStation 1 graphics. I don't care about that. But yeah, go on.
As long as the gameplay is good and for me the
Yeah,
story behind it, yeah, I could
exactly.
roll
Yeah.
with it. And for a major improvements, well, we've talked a little bit about the difficulty. I would see, I think that for the prolongment of the game, and that's the question is as to how long are they still going to get WoW out, how long is going to get WoW active. But I think in order to keep people interested in your game, you're going to have to up the difficulty a little bit. So that's something I would love to see. I was thinking about maybe changing the complete combat style. That would really revamp World of Warcraft. I talked about this before. If you completely change the way that the combat works. Like right now we have our rotations, we push our buttons. We've been doing this for 8 years now. And if you want to make WoW feel fresh, you probably have to revamp that. On the other hand, the difficulty and the risk that you have with making such a drastic change to the game is that people might run away from it and walk away from it because change is not always for the better. So if they're going to improve something, I would say that the combat would be a major feature that they could work on, but it comes with a risk.
Yeah, that's pretty good actually. Um, I've I'd I wouldn't say this is my major improvement that I would say, but in adding to what you just said, I feel like they wanted to reduce the amount of abilities on the hotbar because, like, for instance, I've been introducing my girlfriend to WoW for the first time, right?
Hmm.
And when I showed it to her, there were so many abilities on the hotbar. Like, she was leveling up one by one, and every other level, she was getting something new. And she was turning to me and just saying, "What do I do now? Like, everything's changed." And I have to like show her like what where to go, what to do, what to click, and every level is just something new and. There were more stats to look after and like more bag space, and she was like, "This is so confusing." I'm like, "Yeah." I felt the same way when I started. When I started, I was only like 13, and I thought this was the worst game ever. I'm not kidding. I hated this game. I went from Warcraft 3 expecting kind of the same thing, and I rolled a Tauren, and I logged in. I'm like, "Oh man, Mulgore is so cool." I I got to level 5 and I decided the starting area was crap, so I walked to the next town. I got killed by wolves constantly. I'm like, this is horrible. I can't even get to the
Oh.
next town. And I spent so long just rezzing, grabbing a quest, trying to finish it. Things were aggroing onto me. I'm like, this is just terrible. So like I can totally understand what she feels like. I mean, every level you were getting some new ability that was making it more confusing.
Yeah.
Whereas you look at something like Diablo 3, there's a lot of options there. You've got a lot of ability options. You've got a lot of talent things that change up your existing 4 abilities. I think it's 4 abilities, something like that. And that is perfect for me. Like for anyone who doesn't really hasn't got enough time to learn all this complicated stuff because we've been playing for years, and it's I would love if they could just streamline. I know everyone, probably like 1,000 commenters going to be like, "You like casual shit." I really wish it would streamline it so there's only a few buttons and they made those buttons complex so that I could switch the buttons up and make it more interactive and not have all this crap on the side of my screen that I bet I use every so often. I put the Hearthstone there because I use it. I use the port cloak. I use the sometimes I change my trinket out with this other trinket. So it's like, oh my god, like this is too much crap right here. So yeah, that's not my major thing that I want to change.
No, okay,
Um,
but I can understand it. But then again, I also like the diversity, and I also like to
mm,
learn that rotation, and that there's a little bit of learning your class at the end of the game. It's not in the leveling anymore. So instead of simplifying all of that, I would like to see something like the monk starting area. I don't know if you leveled up a monk yet.
uh, yeah, yeah.
You know that area that you could teleport to, and every time that you get a new skill, you go to a trainer and you have to use that skill, and it explains what it does. I think if they could introduce something for that for every single class with the little experience bonus behind it, I think that would solve a lot of problems about how am I going to go into this game as a fresh player? How do I use these skills? When do I use them? I think if you make a little training area for every class, that would fix a lot of problems.
Yeah, I mean, they mentioned that at the start of Warlords, they're going to have the free level 90, they're going to teach you like the Death Knight starting zone. I still feel like people are going to get overwhelmed because that's a lot of stuff on your hotbar. That's a lot of talents. It's a lot of things to remember. And for someone like my girlfriend, it's going to be extremely difficult to teach her how to use all of this crap on your hotbar. I mean, even at the BlizzCon tutorial thingy, the demo, as I said, it took me 10 entire minutes to set up my hotbar.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not even kidding. Like, that's how long and then I had 5 minutes to do stuff. So,
And that's for someone
it,
who knows the game. Imagine someone who
yeah.
just enters it.
Exactly. They had all the gear in my bags, the tanking gear. I had to switch it out, change spec and all that. But I mean, just going through all my abilities, just trying to remember which one affects which other one. I don't know. I feel like I'm just whining for the sake of whining because there's nothing you can really do about it at this stage. That's what MMOs are. Um, the number one thing that I would improve in the game. Uh,
Yes.
I still don't have anything. Let me think. I would probably say, um,
Should I start a drum roll before the answer comes?
I think so. Maybe a length drum roll. Hmm. Um, okay, here we go. Actually, yeah, this is it. The number one thing I would add or improve to the game is the ability for people to see the story that they've missed, to be able to experience all these moments in the Warcraft history without having to go through all these different zones in an extremely lengthy process. I think just like the I think they nailed it with Throne of Thunder, where they had it so that you could queue up for a bunch of scenarios and experience the story before it unfolded for lives, like for the actual like world.
Hmm.
Um, I wish they would have the same thing for all the story that you missed from even before vanilla, from the very first Warcraft novel down to current day, so that if you really care about the story, you don't have to go onto Wikipedia. You don't have to see our YouTube channels, even though that would be not ideal. But
Are you scaring the
uh,
people away now? Are you going to put that into the game? Please don't.
trust me, the devs don't listen to me, so it's all right. I really hope that they would do something like that so that anyone new to the game, because I had to line up all of these cinematic trailers for the girlfriend, and I just said, okay, watch all of these. I'll explain in between what these stories mean, because she wanted to know all about Jaina and about Arthas, and I had to kind of line up the trailers so that okay, so from
Mm.
start to finish, this is what happened. But then there's all kinds of material in the novel that nobody knows about because it's not really in the game. Like all the events of Storm Rage, where is that?
Yeah, indeed.
They
Or
just
the
completely ignore it.
shattering.
Yeah, yeah, the Shattering. Oh god. And so if they could find a way so that people, just like in Warcraft 3, could experience the story from start to finish at their own pace, in their own time, that would make the game for me. Like beyond all the heroic dungeons and the raid and Elfar and all this crap that I want fixed, they could just make it so that people can experience the story like a movie, but an interactive movie. Perfect.
I think,
Absolutely.
I think
That would
that's
make the game.
I think that's a really cool suggestion, especially for those that are not familiar with the story. But the only problem is, Warcraft 1 and 2 you can implement it easily. Classic WoW you can implement it easily. But when it comes to the novels, there's nothing like a written story. If you cover a book to a movie or a book to a game, it will never be the same as when you read it for yourself. Because you get little details, like the mind of Arthas as he was falling into chaos, as he was falling into the path of the Lich King. Those minor details you will never be able to implement into the game. But overall, in general, just adding scenarios to tell the complete story that people missed, please implement it. Send it in, let's do it.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. It's very difficult to. I mean, when you look at any movie adapted from a book, it's always the book's better because the
Yeah.
book goes into more detail. Um, like I've actually written a couple of books before I did YouTube. I was a crappy writer and I wrote a couple of books. And
Awesome.
what I learned is that um, novels have been around for so long that people are afraid to change how they work. What I mean by that, because that's probably a confusing statement. Um, Novels have kind of an archaic way to express a story. The way they're written. Um, okay, let me put it this way:
Mm.
if you're watching a movie or reading a book or listening to music, in all of these cases, you can do something else at the same time. You don't have to focus 100%. You can, like, unless it's really something you need to focus on, like a heroic raid, you can do something else at the same time. With a book, you have to sit down and read the whole thing. Now, if you don't have a long attention span, which like a lot of people don't, I don't. It might be strange to hear, but as a writer, I don't like reading that much. I find it difficult to do it
Mm.
because I read for about an hour and I get distracted. Like I need to do something else. And then it makes it more difficult to get back into the book because then you have to remember everything that happened. And the books, the books span a traditional 300-page book spans about 5 hours, 6 hours, depending on how fast you read. Like for me, it's about 5, 6 hours. A movie doesn't take that long. A
Mm.
TV show would take a lot longer than that, but they're explaining a lot of stuff. So a book is kind of like an extremely long movie that I can't do anything else with. I can't listen to music unless it's ambience. Um, I can't just sit down and read the whole thing unless, I want to have ADHD and I don't want to jump all over the place and be like, I can't do this. I need to eat something.
Yeah,
Um,
you don't have, as we say, the rust in je kont. You don't have the peace in mind to sit down with a book for several hours and read it in one go.
yeah.
But I mean, I read my books on my toilet every 5 to 10 minutes every so often, and I still get to read the complete story.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. I mean, I wish I could do that. I wish I had like a schedule where I could just sit down and just read. Like every time I try and put in a schedule, like okay, every day I'll read a little bit. Every time, like after a few weeks, I'm like, okay, I can't be bothered reading today. Next day, no. Day after that, I can't even remember what happened anymore, so I'll give up.
Yeah, that's the problem. Yeah,
When I was on the flight to go to BlizzCon, I read the entire Rise of the Horde novel. God damn, that was a good
it's a
book.
good book, huh? Yeah, I know,
Wait,
man.
Warlords of Draenor. It pretty much explained like every character and what they did. Super good. And I was especially surprised that we're talking about lore now. Maybe we should, maybe we should schedule another Skype call and talk about lore because we've been going for like what is like 4 hours now.
Yeah, we should. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, that book was incredibly good. I noticed that in some of the they kind of referenced Outland places like what was it, like Terracar Forest. I'm like, that's not in Draenor. Right. I think everyone who reads it is going to be like that. But yeah. Oh. Um, yeah, I think that's all I got. My
Well,
voice is going.
well, it's a great book, especially if you want to get ready for Warlords of Draenor. Then and the Warcraft movie, even you want to read Rise of the Horde, especially because it explains the beautiful story. And for those that don't know, orcs are my favorite race lore-wise, just because they have such an amazing story behind it. And it explains how a primitive, naive race falls victim to the Burning Legion, and how the orcs started their invasion of Azeroth. What was their motivation? Why did they have to do what they do? Were they just monsters, or was there a reason behind it? And if you really want to complete the series, you need to read all of them. And you need to read Last Guardian, Tides of Darkness, all those books in that series, to get the complete story from both sides, both Horde and Alliance. And once you're finished, you're ready for Warlords of Draenor, and you understand the story better. And I know a lot of people who just see the story from the game, like Alliance players on the forums who are like, orcs were monsters and they were killers and yada yada yada. No, they were not. And orcs who say, orcs are innocent and the Draenei did it and they couldn't do anything about it. No, they could do things about it. That's what makes the story so beautiful. So it's really, if you want to get part of the best stories for World of Warcraft, read those novels. And Lord of the Clans to finish it off. Lord of the Clans is so good.
I haven't got to Lord of the Clans yet. I'm reading The Last Guardian because I just finished Rise of the Horde, and apparently that was the next one. So they do reference Medivh at the end of Rise of the Horde. And Karazhan was so cool. I'm like, yes, Karazhan. Let's do this.
That story's brilliant, man. Made me fall in love with the character Medivh just because they kind of messed it up with the comics, but Medivh's just awesome. I'm actually rereading it now for a future video about a certain dungeon that they might be revamping.
Nice. Also in Rise of the Horde, the way they depicted Ner'zhul and also Durotan and Doomhammer, like I wasn't expecting that. Like when I thought of Rise of the Horde, I was like, okay, it's gonna be a bunch of crazy orcs going nuts against the Draenei, but like Ner'zhul especially, he was so complex. Like I haven't finished reading his story because they don't reference him tearing apart Draenor. But I'm very much looking forward to seeing how he kind of goes back into his downfall because he kind of regretted what happened that was going to happen to the Horde, and then Gul'dan took over.
Spoilers.
And it's just
yeah.
Oh yeah, crap! I forgot. Yeah. Yeah, I won't say anything anymore because like we're going into lore now. And it's like we're gonna save this. We're gonna have a huge thing. All right.
Well, I just want to say this: if you want to read the full story, especially with his journey into becoming eventually Lich King beyond the Dark Portal, you'll get there if you follow the series, and you'll get a new insight as to Ner'zhul. Now, you said you wanted to say something about the Warcraft movie, or are we done for today?
Oh yeah, yes, because we won't get a chance. Warcraft movie. Right. Well. I wouldn't mind just telling people because I haven't made a video on the Warcraft movie in a while, and I was going to make one recently, but I couldn't be bothered. So the thing I want to say is that people haven't been talking about the film's writer much, and I did a lot of research on him,
Mm.
and what I came up with on face value, like it seems very positive. Like he's done a lot of good films, like Blood Diamond and what was the other one? K-Pax. But when I looked at his history, it was kind of negative. Like a lot of his other films didn't do it so well, and Blood Diamond was rewritten. I don't think he even had much to do with K-Pax. And like I just want to like kind of warn people that if it's anything like Man of Steel, which also had a writer that I felt very sketchy about,
Yeah.
and we're kind of hyping this up to be this big deal, wait for the trailer to come out and then form your opinion, because you'll be able to find out really quickly if this film is going to work or not. Like we can see concept art, we can see oh god, director's name, son of David Bowie, Duncan Jones. You can see like Duncan Jones has done a lot of good stuff. I love Duncan Jones stuff. Like he's an amazing director. He's going to do a fantastic job. But yeah, just take the idea with a grain of salt. I mean, don't focus so much on the actors. Don't focus so much on what the story is. You know, I love that the story is going to be, you know, the Dark Portal kind of thing. But just be cautious, and hopefully it'll work out fine. But there's a chance that it could be another video game flop, and I'm hoping it won't be, because that wouldn't be good.
Words of wisdom. Don't get your hopes up. Just wait until it's actually there, so you won't be disappointed.
Yep, exactly.
I think this is brilliant, and I think we can wrap it up like this, Mr. DD. I just want to thank you, man. Thank you for coming along and chatting with us for 3 freaking hours.
Yeah, I think it was like 3 or 4. Kind of exhausted. I feel like I run a marathon.
We've done enough work for months, man. We're done. Let the end of the year come.
Yeah, that was really good. I wouldn't mind doing another one with lore stuff. That would be quite fun.
Definitely. We still have questions for lore, so we have those ready for when you have the time.
Yep.
Excellent, matey. Gonna end the recording.
Awesome.